Good morning, my miracle friends, and welcome to the group. Any new people who've just joined. And I want to explain a tiny bit about the Course in Miracles. It talks a lot about the release from fear, and that the miracle is when you go from a perspective that is fear-based to a perspective that is loving and unity consciousness based. And when we talk about fear, we're not talking about like terrified, sitting there shaking, terrified for life. I mean, it could be that as well. But fear in the Course in Miracles is anything that is the absence of love. So that can be very mild irritation, even boredom or um, murderous rage. It could be anywhere on the spectrum, because in the Course in Miracles it says there is no order of difficulty, and there is no way that you can be in fear and in love at the same time. So you're one or the other, and you always know how that feels, because when you're in love or in a state of love and unity consciousness, you feel expansive, open-hearted, light-hearted. And when you're in fear or a degree of fear, you feel a sort of contraction of your energy. So, anyway, this is taken from chapter 2 from A Course in Miracles text. And the whole section is called Healing is the Release from Fear. But I've just cherry picked a few sentences out of that section. So, here we go. All healing is essentially the release from fear. To undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. You do not understand healing because of your own fear. The miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. Read that again. All healing is essentially the release from fear. If you think about it, all healing is all about lifting the stress, because we're all now starting to realize that a lot of the reasons we don't feel well, or our body starts to not feel well, is chronic stress. So if we're going to get to the cause of the problem, the main cause, which is stress, is literally coming from fear. Fear of something, fear of not feeling safe, fear of not being enough, fear of like a million things. Fear of the sky falling in, fear of the latest thing on the news. So all healing is essentially the release from fear. Might only be temporary, and maybe the fear comes back again, but that is why we all want to be healed, is release ourselves from fear. So to undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. So if you are a healer and somebody comes to you, you can't be fearful yourself in order to help release them from fear. Otherwise, you do not understand healing because of your own fears. But what I've noticed is we all have like a bandwidth of our lowest point and our highest point. And let's say somebody comes to see us who's in the lowest point of our own bandwidth. We can help them, elevate them, and raise them to a certain level. But the limit to that level will be based on our own limits, if you see what I mean. The miracle, to attain its full efficacy must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. So we are here to raise everything to a higher frequency, to a higher level, to a lighter level. So if somebody comes or you're having a conversation with someone, and let's say they're caught in their own loop, they're going round and round and round, and they seem to be in muddy waters and they can't seem to get out of this loop. And it's very easy to see other people in their loops. It's much harder to see our own blind spots and our own loops that are going on. But you need somebody who is capable of speaking your language at your level of communication and elevating you to a higher level, making you feel safe, making you feel more peaceful, showing you a different way of looking at it. So this isn't the ultimate level of communication. You could have a revelation. You could be knocked over by a light within that explodes inside you, but that would just be too strong and that would not be understandable necessarily. So we all have to have a sort of translator within us when we're speaking to someone. If we can see that someone is not achieving their full potential because of their own limits, there's no point in going very, very high with the communication. You have to be able to speak their language, whatever that language is, and then just raise it, even if it's just a little bit. So you don't want to add to someone's fear. We don't want to add to our own fears. I mean, according to the Course in Miracles, fear is just an illusion, but it feels like a very real one. So there's no point in saying to someone that's full of fear, don't bother being full of fear, it's just an illusion. No, it feels very real in the moment. Just have to give them a little bit of hope, or give yourself a little bit of hope, and step by step raise the levels. So this totally reminds me of the map of consciousness many of us know and love, where each emotion has a certain frequency, and the heavier, denser frequencies, the lower frequencies, and obviously the very high ones. And they all exist within us like a radio show, like a radio channel. We can tune into the higher or the lower ones. So you can go from grief to anger is a huge leap in frequency, even if from anger to ecstasy and bliss seems very far away. Any increase in the level is a miracle. So, beloved divine, the perfect day already exists, full of love, full of healing, full of hope, full of gentleness and peace. Thank you for guiding me and everyone concerned to this. Love before us and love behind us. Love to the left of us and love to the right of us. Love above us and love below us. Love expressed through us. Love emanate from us, touching everyone and everything in the form and the formless. Where would love have me go today? What would love have me do today? What would love have me say today or not say today? Equally as important. And to whom? Have an amazing day.